legacy while I questioned my identity incessantly. How could I be a part of a community when I felt the world's back on me, while the shame of my culture cracks my shoulders, trying not to give in to gravity when nobody could get the gravity of my situation, not to mention those who are behind me, who built this nation, the land of the free. From farmers to pharmacists, scholars to doctors, professors and preachers. I guess what's inside the rear view is closer than it seems. Can you justify death? What is there to defend? That their creed is not yours, nor is the color of their skin, but the blood that runs is just as red. As for massacres, air raids, that they can't live here and at all, so you plaster their skies black and flood their rivers red as long as the green enters. And for what? Your pride? Spite? Rosy daydreams, empty promises of democracy while you champion hypocrisy, a coincidence? We know it's not. The ink of your pen smears the blood, sweat, and tears my people have made in exchange for our accolades that you so claim. The numbers you use to count your blessings, the medicines and remedies for your pain, the secret maps of time and stars and space, the poems you sing for good tidings, among other things. And what do I have to offer but hand-me-down assets? Why should I be remembered for something I haven't worked for, let alone deserve? I have not earned it, but I have learned this, that I am also their legacy. Their victories course through my veins, their deeds bring my heart to peace, their courage heals my mind to ease, so as long as I remember, it remains. And maybe, someday, somehow, I'll make the future proud. Perhaps unbind the chains and minds of the children trapped by war and apartheid and other crimes, where my family would have been, have not for the sacrifices they saw. Even now, as long as I am here, I will criticize what you subsidize. The colonization and oppression, the suppression of voices like mine, trying to get back what was theirs and mine. I don't want to be remembered for that. In fact, my last name, Al-Aidi, it is Arabic for the one that goes back. That is also my legacy, perhaps my destiny. Until the day I can ever go back, nothing is free. Not for you, nor for me. Thank you. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
I started by talking about the issue. And that issue that we identified is apartheid.
Can we study first before we start?
I mean, we kind of started
All right, we'll study that in the house. Just announce it, Wasim, if you don't mind. Wasim! Wasim! Go ahead, just announce if anybody wants to pray.
Alright, we're going to have a group of brothers praying over there on that side. Give me a second.
Wasim, we're over here. There's people there.
So the issue that we talked about is apartheid. The issue is settler colonialism. The issue is theft of indigenous land, murder and marginalization of indigenous people. And we would be hypocritical to not acknowledge that today we stand on stolen indigenous land. That we exist in a country where an entire people had to suffer, were marginalized, murdered, removed, and until this day face a lot of forced issues. like to invite our next speaker up, representing the United American Indians of New England, Jean-Luc.
And as is our tradition, before we say anything about ourselves, we do recognize the land. This Manahata in Lenape King, this place that has provided home for urban indigenous peoples living away from tribal homelands because of forced relocation into urban centers by act of this United States Congress in the 1950s. We stand in solidarity with all indigenous peoples here today and pledge our support to every initiative, but most especially today for the exercise of freedom of religion by indigenous peoples. My name is Jean-Luc Perit. I am here representing United American Indians in New England. I send greetings from our co-lead, Matoin Monroe. And when I look out at these flags, I'm reminded of our National Day of Mourning when all of our Palestinian siblings come to Plymouth and decorate the streets of Plymouth with these flags. So I thank you all. My solidarity doesn't just come from the Vatican rescinding the doctrine of discovery or anything like that. My solidarity comes from shared experience. My solidarity comes from experiences of 2 years ago when I was supporting a ceremony by indigenous women. And at this ceremony, these women fasted and prayed and danced for 4 days. And on the third day, a couple of years ago, we were raided by the local sheriff's department. And I just think of those women, especially those from South America, escaping the violence of land disputes in their own home territories, having to be held by gunpoint while they're holding their babies. This not only happens on your lands, but our lands too. So it is shared experience. And because of that, there is no act of resistance greater than the people exercising their right to worship where their ancestors have worshiped since time immemorial. And so we say, from Turtle Island to Palestine, free the land, free the people. Tikach, thank you.
I absolutely need somebody to help me now.
You need a hand.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Be careful.
Next, I would like to welcome up to the stage Sireen from MSA Marist College.
Love you too. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello. My name is Sireen El Jamel. I'm from Jimzu, Palestine. My family was forcefully displaced in July 1948 and again forcefully displaced in 1967 from Jericho, Palestine. Wow, there's a lot of people here. I'm here today to read a poem called It Runs. It's about the resilience that I believe runs through every Palestinian's veins, just from all the trauma that we've experienced, but there's beauty in that. And resilience runs through each and every one of us, and everyone here who isn't Palestinian by blood today, you are Palestinian for standing with us. Hold on one sec. Okay. In my bloodstream, through every capillary and every vein, I feel it burn. It runs. In my bloodstream, out of pride and out of anger, I feel it burn. It runs. From occupation and the trauma of my ancestors, I feel it burn. It runs in my bloodstream, through every capillary and every vein. Out of pride and out of anger, I feel it burn. It runs. As you speak to me, but I can't hear, I feel it burn. It runs. As the blood rushes to my cheeks, I feel it burn. It runs. As my heart pounds from this fear, I feel it burn. It runs as the adrenaline courses through every capillary and every vein. I feel it burn. It runs. In my bloodstream, through weakness and through strength, I feel it burn. It runs. With rosy cheeks and hope heavy on my chest, I feel it burn. Resilience runs. As I throw my rock with all of my strength to combat the rifle that put a bullet in my brother's chest, I feel it burn. I run. To reclaim my home with teary eyes, I feel it burn. I run. This land is mine and your tank looks fine, but my rock will fly as I feel it burn. It flies to take back what's mine, because with some time, your tank will die and my people will rise. Resilience flies. Sure. Do I want to do some chants? That's a first. You got it! All right, first off, a lot of people talk about peace, but there's no way peace can be attainable without justice. And that is why we have the chant, no justice,
No peace!
no justice,
No peace!
no justice,
No peace!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
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 guys. Ready? Okay. Free, free Palestine!
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 From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free! Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime.
No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel. No more money for Israel's crimes. Free. No more money for Israel's crimes.
No more money for Israel's crimes.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Zionism has got to go.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine. No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime.
No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime.
No more money for Israel's crimes.
Okay, everybody, I want to invite somebody on. Her name's Selma. She's from Answer Coalition, and she'll be speaking to us. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Ramadan Mubarak. My name is Salma. I'm an organizer with the Answer Coalition. And like all of you here today, I'm outraged by Israel's attacks on Muslims praying at Al-Aqsa and the bombing of Gaza during Ramadan, a holy month for Muslims where we're meant to recommit to our spiritual practice. I'm outraged because we know that this happens every year. Not even a full year ago, we were in Bay Ridge with so many of you, organizing and protesting against the Israeli state for what they did last year in Ramadan of 2022. Every year they do this, and every year we show up to resist because we know that they do this intentionally, that they target us during Ramadan intentionally because they want to break our spirit. They want to remind Palestinian Muslims that they're not safe, not even when they're praying, and they want to punish Palestinians for daring to resist. But what they don't seem to understand after all this time is that there is no way they can break the spirit of the Palestinian people, no matter how hard they try and no matter how well-funded they are. Palestinians who go to Al-Aqsa to pray, they know that they're going to be a target of the Israeli state. They know that they're a target of the occupation, and they go so anyway. And it's because they're never going to let the occupation stop them from standing their ground and protecting their mosque. Arabs across the world grow up learning about the Palestinian struggle. So many of us can trace our own politicization to the moment that someone sat us down and told us about 1948, when thousands of Palestinians were forcibly removed from their lands during the Nakba. The Palestinian resistance has always been a beacon of struggle for us and for oppressed and working class people everywhere. As an Egyptian, I would be remiss to not call out the Egyptian government's disgusting collusion with Israel from its unwavering support of the 1979 Camp David Accords, even as Israel violates terms of that agreement, and for their refusal to ease up the restrictions on Gaza's blockade. We have a duty to not only call out the American government for its endless financial support of Israel, but to call out our own governments in our homelands for what they've allowed to happen, for their siding with the Israeli state and not and their abandonment of Palestine. Our duty as people living in the United States is to stand firmly in solidarity with the Palestinian people. This means being in the streets, and it means staying in the streets. It means raising the Palestinian flag high everywhere that we go, because we know that it's a symbol for struggle and resistance for people everywhere. Being in solidarity with the Palestinian resistance means that we must understand how capitalism is connected to the oppression of Palestinians. Every year, thank you. Every year, the United States gives Israel billions of dollars, the majority of which goes to the Israeli military, so that they can use it to humiliate, harass, and displace and murder Palestinians. The money
The money comes right back to line the pockets of the American billionaires who own the weapons manufacturing companies. We know that war is profitable for them. We know that every time a bomb is dropped on Gaza, an American billionaire gets a little richer. And we won't stand for it. Why should the taxpayer money of millions of working class people Why should the taxpayer money of millions of American working class people be used to slaughter people fighting for their land? We must be able to make this clear to working class people here, to explain that the reason their government does not make food and shelter a guaranteed right is because they're too busy waging a war against indigenous people who are fighting for their land and fighting for their right to self-determination. The Answer Coalition has always put Palestine at the forefront of internationalism. We understand that the liberation of the Palestinian people is connected to the liberation of working class oppressed people everywhere. And we stand with you today, and we stand with you every day, and we're going to fight alongside you with everything that we have until Palestine is free. So I hope that you all will join me right now to say, long live the Palestinian resistance. Long live the Palestinian resistance.
Long live the Palestinian resistance! Long live the Palestinian resistance!
Long live the Palestinian resistance!
Thank you, everyone.
We are in a very unique position. We, living in the United States, whether we like it or not, the truth is, we are in a very unique position.
Yes, we are.
We live under the government that is the largest enabler of Palestinian oppression through funding and diplomatic means. Diplomatic means. And yeah, if it's not clear what I'm talking about the US government. But that reach doesn't just stop at Palestine. It goes beyond Palestine. From Palestine to the Philippines. Stop the US war machine! Stop the US war machine!
Stop the U.S. war machine!
From Palestine to the Philippines!
From Palestine to the Philippines!
Stop the US war machine!
Stop the U.S. war machine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
From Palestine to the Philippines!
From Palestine to the Philippines!
Stop the US war machine!
Stop the U.S. war machine!
And from there, I'd like to invite up to speak from Bayan, Dana.
Hello everyone, my name is Dana and I'm speaking today on behalf of Bayan USA Northeast. Bayan USA is a grassroots alliance of mass organizations fighting for national democracy with a socialist perspective in the Philippines. We're here today to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people against the fascist attacks on Al-Aqsa. We are outraged by the horrific use of state violence by the US-backed Israeli state. We know that the state of Israel is responsible for the genocide and displacement of millions of Palestinians. And we also know that Israel has a long history of supporting fascist, repressive regimes in the Philippines as well. Israel regularly supplies the Philippines with arms and military equipment used to oppress the Filipino people. In 2022 alone, the Philippines purchased 20 tanks from Elbit Systems and 9 gunboats from Israel's shipyards. Israeli weapons were also used to carry out the Philippine war on drugs, which resulted in over 30,000 extrajudicial killings. Shame. The IDF also loves to exchange its fascist tactics with the Philippines. The IDF provides Filipino troops and police with counter-terrorism training that helps them suppress Filipino activists and freedom fighters. It's clear that Israel is a common enemy of the Filipino and Palestinian peoples. And US imperialism is the other common enemy. The US government openly supports the Israeli and Philippine states, funding and arming their anti-people regimes, signing unjust military agreements, and spreading Zionist and imperialist propaganda. We see it even here in New York City as the NYPD conducts trainings with the IDF and the Philippine National Police and spies on our Palestinian and Filipino activists. That's why we are here, because we know the only way to crush imperialism is through people's resistance and internationalism. Our enemies might be united, but so are we. Zion stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and we call for an end to US funding of Israel, hands off Al-Aqsa, and the return of all ancestral lands to Palestinians. We also invite you to join us here in Times Square again on Monday at 7 p.m. to protest the worsening US militarism in the Philippines. This week, 12,000 US soldiers are set to arrive in the Philippines for joint military exercises. The US hopes to use the Philippines as a pawn in its imperialist wars, just like it does with Palestine. And as diasporic activists here, living in the heart of empire, it is our duty to resist. I hope to see you here again on Monday, and I also look forward to seeing all of you off the streets, organizing, doing the hard day-to-day work of building our people's movements. As the crisis of imperialism worsens and the fascist state continues to expose itself in its desperation, the people's resistance only grows stronger and stronger. International solidarity only grows stronger and stronger. We will continue to fight, and we will see an end to imperialism. Palestine and the Philippines will be free.
To the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Thank you.
Anybody wants to What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What does justice look like? Freedom for Palestine. What does freedom for Palestine look like? Down with empires. Down with white supremacy. The right of return. Ending the occupation. These are not my answers, by the way. I'm reflecting the crowd's answers back. Freedom. No child prisoners. Shout out to whoever said that. No child prisoners, whether it be in Palestine or at the southern border of the United States. It is incumbent upon us to be aware and vocal about oppression across the board. Not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime,
No more money for Israel's crimes. Not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
end the aggression, end the crimes, Zionists out of Palestine.
End the aggression, end the crimes, Zionists out of Palestine.
End the aggression, end the crimes,
End the aggression, end the crimes,
Zionists out of Palestine.
Zionists out of Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
a coincidence that we see aggression against Palestinian people flare up during Ramadan. It's not a coincidence that Palestinians are facing religious repression. And I want to be very clear that it's not just about the Muslim population. We know tomorrow is Easter, and we know that the indigenous Christians in the Holy Land are Palestinian. And we know that any infringement on their right to practice their religion is something that we all are going to take personally and fight against. So when we say free Palestine, we're talking about all of Palestinians. And when we say free Palestine, we say that with all indigenous people across the world on the mind. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Not another nickel! Not another dime!
No more money for Israel's crimes!
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes. Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more.
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state.
Israel is a terrorist state.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
In our thousands, in our millions.
Thousands in our millions.
We are all Palestinian.
We are all Palestinians.
In our thousands, in our millions.
In our thousands in our millions.
We are all Palestinian.
We are all Palestinians.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
I'd like to welcome next to the stage Bill Doris with Struggle La Lucha.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
75 years ago, on this very day, a gang of terrorists, Zionist settlers, invaded the village of Deir Yassin, near Jerusalem, and murdered 254 people, women, men, children. It is one of the many massacres that were done to create the so-called state of Israel, the racist entity called Israel, on stolen Palestinian land, to drive the majority of the people of Palestine from their homes. A Nakba. And since then, it has been one long, unending reign of terror against the Palestinian people, against the neighboring people of Lebanon, of Egypt, of Jordan, of Syria, because Israel only exists to wage war and to oppress. Today, on the West Bank and in Jerusalem, more gangs of twisted, bigoted settlers are trying again to drive people to trying to complete the job of driving the Palestinian people from their home with the full might of the U.S. Army, the Israeli Army, and U.S. dollars and guns behind them. They are doing what the Ku Klux Klan and racist white mobs did in Rosewood and Thibodaux and Tulsa and so many black communities in this country that were destroyed. And just as the racists in the South target black churches, the Zionists are targeting Palestinian masjids and churches in the Holy Mosque of Al-Aqsa, where people are being denied the right to worship and attacked by police while they're trying to pray. And the U.S. government says nothing, but signs another check. Even if they criticize, they sign another check. But 75 years of terror has not broken the resistance of the Palestinian people. In Nablus, in Huwara, in Jenin, in Al-Khalil, in Jerusalem, and now even in Al-Fahim, in Haifa, people are fighting, and in the camp, people are fighting back, are resisting. How can a state the size of Israel carry on endless war? It can only do so because it gets endless money from Washington. And that's where our job comes in. We need to stop the funds. It's so many ways. It's $4 billion a year in military aid, but it's tax-exempt donations that flow. It's the U.S.-Israel Free Trade Agreement. It's so many subsidies. It comes out to tens of billions of dollars a year that prop up this racist entity that can pay for the murder in Palestine. So we need to, at the same time as the U.S. government is cutting food stamps, while prices are going through the roof, we need to build a movement in this country that demands money for jobs and healthcare and housing and schools, not for war. And end all aid to the racist state of Israel. End all aid to the racist state of Israel.
End all aid to the racist state of Israel. End all aid to the racist state of Israel.
It's been all aid to the racist state of Israel. End all aid to the racist state of Israel. Because 75 years is too much. It ends now. It's coming to an end. We've got to end it. We've got to help end it. Because Israel is a racist state built on lies, war, and hate. Israel is a racist state built on lies, blood, and hate. Israel is a racist state built on lies, blood, and hate. Free, free Palestine. Go out, mobilize, organize. We'll come back with more people. Join us in Bay Ridge in Brooklyn on May 14th on the anniversary of Nakba. We've got to be in the streets again and again until this monstrous crime ends. Thank you. Free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Thank you, Bill.
Free Palestine.
It's not easy to come out on a day like this. It's not easy to be voicing opinions that are demonized in our society, that are ostracized in our society. But it's our responsibility to speak up against oppression, both here in the United States, in Palestine, in India, and anywhere else, regardless of identity.
Let the journalists come after that. From the floor because the journalists are going to come take pictures. So we want you to have the crowd up. Come down there. Journalists can get some good shots. Yeah.
All right, I want to make sure New York hears us. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
we don't get it.
come on the stage right here just to get a few pictures. You're welcome. If any journalists to get some good shots of the crowd. While Muhammad Abdel Ghani riles the crowd up so we get some good shots.
Takbir! Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Hands off Al-Aqsa now!
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 Ho ho! Hey hey! The occupation's got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho!
The occupation's got to go!
Hey hey! Ho ho!
The occupation's got to go!
Hey hey! Ho ho!
The occupation's got to go!
Hey hey! Ho ho!
The occupation's got to go!
Not another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crime!
Not another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crimes!
Not another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crimes!
Not another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crimes!
Not another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crimes!
Another nickel! Not another dime! No more money for Israel's crimes!
Justice is our demand, no peace on stolen land!
Justice is our demand, no peace on stolen land!
Justice is our demand! Justice is our demand! No peace on stolen land!
No peace on stolen land!
Justice is our demand!
Justice is our demand!
No peace on stolen land!
No peace on stolen land!
End the aggression, stop the crimes!
End the aggression, stop the crimes!
Zionists out of Palestine!
Zionists out of Palestine!
End the aggression, stop the crimes!
End the aggression, stop the crimes!
Zionists out of Palestine!
Zionists out of Palestine!
In our millions, in our billions!
In our millions, in our billions!
We are all Palestinians!
We are all Palestinians!
In our millions, in our billions!
In our millions, in our billions!
We are all Palestinians!
We are all Palestinians!
1, 2, 3, 4!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
Israel is a terrorist state!
Israel is a apartheid state!
Israel is a apartheid state!
1, 2, 3, 4!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Stop the killing, stop the hate!
Stop the killing, stop the hate!
Israel, Israel, you can't hide!
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 We charge you with genocide!
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 Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Zionism's got to go! Hey, hey!
Ho, ho! Zionism's got to go!
Hey, hey!
Ho, ho! Zionism's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Zionism's got to go!
Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
Zionism's got to go!
Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
Zionism has got to go!
Hey, hey!
Ho ho! Zionism has got to go! Ho ho! Zionism has got to go!